Ruin My Childhood.
Welcome to Ruin My Childhood, the podcast where we decide if some things are better left in the past. I'm Kat.
I'm Mike.
And today we are talking about Spider-Man.
Wait.
What?
I need to interject.
I haven't even introduced it.
This is episode 50.
Ooh.
Major milestone.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Already?
50 episodes. Pretty incredible. What's interesting is
what
we've
am
done
I doing with my life?
a podcast. It's taken less time to hit 50 episodes on this show than Remake Rewind. And Remake Rewind was out for a few months before this one.
It's because we have our stuff together.
Well, no, we've never missed an episode of Remake Rewind. It's just we did a couple months where we did 4 Christmas episodes, 4 Halloween episodes.
Yeah,
kind
boy.
of thing. So we just did more episodes in a shorter period of time. So good job.
Go us, episode 50. After doing X-Men the Animated Series, we thought it was only natural to cover Spider-Man the Animated Series because of the title, and because Mike, as I'm sure you all know by now, is obsessed with Spider-Man.
Yep, I'm a webhead.
Oh my god, what?
I love the Spidey. I'm a webby.
So we've been together for 10 years.
Yep.
And I've never heard you refer to yourself as a webhead.
I don't think I ever have either.
I think we can go another 10 years before
I think I've always just
hear
said
that again.
I think I've always just said I'm a Spider-Man nerd.
Oh no.
But yeah, I'm really excited to watching this because we watched the X-Men and it held up. It was great.
It did. It was fantastic. Loved it then. Loved it, last week.
2 weeks ago. Well, we've watched a couple of more episodes. So this show actually has crossover events with the X-Men. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't be as good, if not better, because this came out a couple years later. The animation was a little bit more polished.
Just call me when the Beast comes on.
He's in a couple episodes.
He's my favorite.
He's in several
He's the
episodes.
best. He's like a big blue kitty.
I think the X-Men cross over 2 or 3 times in the series, and Beast is in it, I think, in every single one that the X-Men are. So, yeah, Beast is definitely in this show. But I'm really excited because this series is what actually got me into Spider-Man. I didn't read comic books prior to this TV show.
Seriously?
Yeah, so this is what got me into the character. I
think I read comic books before you did.
I mean, I had a few here and there, but this is what got me into it.
Granted, I read Archie comics.
That doesn't count.
And no one knew what that was until Riverdale.
Right.
But joke's on them, because Riverdale is just like Pretty Little Liars, but set in Riverdale.
Right. But yeah, I'm really excited to cover this just because I know so much about the character because of this. This is what got me into Spider-Man, and just like the X-Men, this series kind of did a lot of the major stories from Spider-Man. Now, unlike the X-Men, this one made pretty substantial changes, but for some reason, the changes that they've made in this series kind of were accepted by the general population as being a better version of the actual comic books. Like Venom, the most popular Venom origin is from the TV show. It completely changed it from the comic books, and people actually really went for it. And that new Venom movie that's out now has a similar Venom origin to this cartoon. Obviously, just doesn't have Spider-Man, which is weird. I don't want to get into that. Wait, you want to get into it?
How can you have Venom without having Spider-Man?
It's dumb and it doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, because Venom's origin is so directly tied into Spider-Man.
Right. I thought like Venom ends up kind of like being Peter Parker's foray into like this anti-hero
No,
situation.
Venom and Spider-Man are not the same person.
What?
No. So Venom, all right, I'm going to try to keep this as succinct as possible so we can get to our listeners.
I'm so confused.
So,
I thought like Venom was like the suit that he like Peter Parker never puts on Venom suit.
Okay. So Venom is a different
I thought
character.
He puts on that suit and he kind of goes
yes.
rogue.
Yes and no. So the suit is a symbiote. It is a living creature.
A symbiote.
It is a living creature. Sentient, everything, right?
That's so gross.
Yeah. So
see, like you got this living creature like all up in your junk.
Right. So in the comic
got a living
books,
creature in your butt
all
crack.
up. So the thing that's crazy is this symbiote can actually
cradling your nads.
Yep. But the suit actually can make him have whatever clothing he wants. The costume, it gives him like organic webbing. It does all this great stuff. Now in the comic books, he got this suit in outer space in this huge crossover event called Secret Wars.
Wait.
Yes. Did you have a question, or you just needed me to slow down?
No, there's so much happening. And then I started thinking about organic webbing, and I'm like, well, hang on, because we've already seen 3 film adaptations of Spider-Man in the last, 15 years?
16 years.
And half of them have had organic webbing and half of them haven't?
No, just the Tobey Maguire ones.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, nothing makes sense anymore.
So, he gets this suit in space, and he had it for several years in the 80s. And then they decided to, I almost said Seth MacFarlane. Todd McFarlane. He comes in and he decides...
I would love to see a Seth MacFarlane Spider-Man.
That would be weird. Spider-Man shows up in Family Guy a couple times.
I think Everybody Seth MacFarlane needs to write that musical.
What musical? The Spider-Man musical? There is a Spider-Man musical.
Okay, one where people don't die.
I don't think anyone's actually died.
No, I mean like in real life trying to put it together.
Nobody died. They just got hurt really bad.
Just maimed.
Right. So anyway, Spider-Man gets the suit in a crossover event in space, and then he finds out down the line...
Crossover event in space.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just like a pocket dimension.
I feel like the Spider-Man franchise as a whole needs to get together.
No, it's good.
It needs to get it together.
It's
way too complicated.
Okay. Oh, it gets way more complicated in 2008. So anyway, basically he finds out that this suit is a living thing, and he's uncomfortable having a living thing bonded to him.
I would be too.
So he gets rid of it. And then the suit finds its way to Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock hates Spider-Man and Peter Parker. The suit hates Spider-Man and Peter Parker for rejecting it. So they become Venom, and Venom's not really a villain as much as he is like an anti-hero. Mm-hmm. So that's like a succinct version of the original origin in the TV show. And this is
it's his dark side.
So kind of, yeah. So in the TV show, the suitstone comes from space, but J. Jonah Jameson's son, who's an astronaut, brings
Jonah Jameson's in this?
No, J. Jonah Jameson. His son is an astronaut, brings it back from space. The ship crashes. Spider-Man saves, the astronauts. The suit gets on him, and it makes him stronger, faster, gives him organic webbing, but he starts getting angrier and stronger, and he actually starts getting a little bit more brutal, and he realizes he's changing, so he gets rid of the suit, and Eddie Brock, same thing, hates Spider-Man, gets the suit and becomes Venom. So Venom and Spider-Man are not the same character. But their origins are so closely tied that it makes no sense not to have them together.
Right.
So
that's a whole lot of information.
Right.
Okay. Should we get to our listener questions?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. We have one from Dale Blas, and it is, why was Aunt May so old and feeble? More like Grandma May. And I responded with, I prefer Aunt Bay.
Right. The thing that's funny about Aunt Bay in Spider-Man Homecoming...
Marissa Tomei is so hot.
She's so hot.
She keeps getting hotter, too.
Well, what's crazy is she was smoking hot in Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, the beginning of the movie is supposed to be the same time period, but they give her longer hair, they put her in funky clothes and put her in glasses to try to ugly her up, and she's still super hot. But
she's more fun because she's
fun.
Younger. It just makes her more interesting. And I don't know. I prefer that version.
It makes more sense in this kind of day and age. The reason you've asked me this question several times over the last decade.
And I never remember the answer.
Right, because you don't care.
A decade is a long time,
It
Michael.
is. So the reason she's so old, Deo, is that the reason she's so old is that her husband, Ben Parker, Uncle Ben, who dies over and over and over again, he was in college, like he'd already graduated college when his younger brother Richard was born. And then Richard Parker ended up being, like, he went to school, he was a scientist, he was actually a spy at some point. So presumably he didn't have Peter until his early 20s at the earliest, but realistically probably mid to late 20s because he had his career. So that would put Ben anywhere from 40 to 50 when Peter's born. So by the time Peter is 15, 16 when he becomes Spider-Man, he'd be pushing 55 to 60 something.
Okay, so I understand that this is the whole backstory, but it's kind of silly because Uncle Ben pretty much exists in the Spider-Man universe just to be killed over and over. So it's like,
yes.
This whole backstory really only comes up in flashbacks and reminiscing about stuff.
That's true.
So why bother? basically.
I mean, it's important because when you look at the 60s and prior, most superheroes, their origin is tied into revenge or, having some accident and having some sort of mission that they have to redeem themselves.
Yeah, but why did he have to be so old?
Because, okay, so the other reason is the reason Spider-Man's so popular. He's arguably the top 3 most popular superheroes: Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. The reason he's so popular is people can relate to him. He was in high school when he got his powers. He tried to get rich and famous off of it first, and then he has bill problems. His aunt's sick. He's got to take care of her. He can't pay rent sometimes. So he has real world problems, and it's so easy to relate to him. Also, he was nerdy and got picked on, and that's kind of how I related to.
I just think there's no point having them be so old.
There was plenty of points. I just told you all of them.
People can have conflict without being old.
No, they can't.
All right. Should we watch the show?
Well, I've got one comment.
Okay.
This actually ties in kind of into Venom. I went on a tangent about Venom, but D. Cruz says, "I was shook when I thought Spider-Man was going to kill Shocker while he was in the black suit." So
there's a character called the Shocker.
Yes, he has
like doing the pink one in the Stink Shocker.
You can't say that. I just flicked her.
Don't flick me. I am not the cat.
I mean, your name's Cat.
Oh my god. Can't believe you just flicked me.
You can't say that on this PG podcast.
It's still PG. I didn't say what it was.
But yeah,
Shocker.
Spider. I definitely remember that scene. He like chokes out the Shocker and he's gonna like throw him off a building. All right, I think we should just end this portion of the podcast and go watch it because you cannot take this seriously.
No. Let's go. All right, we are back. We have watched 3 episodes of Spider-Man the Animated Series. How are you feeling?
I'm conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we watched the first episode, which is Night of the Lizard, and just like X-Men, there are a lot of multi-part episodes. So we watched one multi-part episode, and I'm conflicted.
Which one?
We watched the Insidious 6 two-parter, which is the first and second episode of season 2, and then we watched the first episode of the series overall. And I'm conflicted because that episode that we watched, the 2-part episode that we watched with I'm gonna keep saying Sinister 6 because that's what they're normally called in this. It's called the Insidious 6. That should have been a great episode. All of the villains in the series up to that point, with the exception of Venom, coming together, teaming up to fight Spider-Man. But in this one, Spider-Man lost his powers. And so he's just like Peter Parker the whole time. And so it was kind of like a weird episode to watch because I know they cross over with the X-Men. I know Daredevil shows up and Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
all
but
these other
half
characters.
of what's interesting about Spider-Man is Peter Parker
right.
and his regular life.
No, I agree. It's just like we just happened to pick episodes where he's like, it was just strange episodes that we ended up watching. So
yeah.
There was still like that nostalgia bug like crazy. Like the theme song, I was totally pumped when the theme song came on.
It's got a pretty good theme song.
Just like X-Men, it's got kind of like a rock.
It's got a long intro.
It's
the
only like a minute.
Why?
The X-Men one's like 59 seconds.
That's
it's a minute
crazy.
As well. But this one still has like the
I
guitar.
guess because it's cheaper
right.
to have a long intro and not have to animate as much. But still, it's just so weird having watched all these other kids' shows that have much more concise intros. The intro has like this riff that is a lot like Electric Six.
Fire in the Disco?
Fire in the Disco.
Kind of.
Anyway.
Kind of. But I was juiced when that came on.
I know.
I had that as a ringtone as well. Back when they were like, whatever they're called, true tones or whatever. Where there was just
basically
tones.
MIDI.
Right. And it was hard to figure out what they actually were sometimes.
The first thing I noticed when we watched the first episode, Spider-Man's kind of a jerk in it. So he rescues this guy from the sewer, right?
Yeah.
And he pulls the guy above ground. He's like, red eyes, red eyes. Like, he's stuttering. He's obviously completely traumatized.
Right.
And Spider-Man is, like, wisecracking. He's totally dismissive of this dude and is like, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, whatever. He's kind of a jerk.
Right.
Kind of insensitive. One thing that's weird about this, I wasn't sure that we were watching the first episode, season 1, episode 1, because it jumps right into it. And, I'm not used to watching a Spider-Man series or TV show and having no origin story.
Right. Well, I think they probably just didn't want to show
which is
Uncle Ben dying.
Cool. It's kind of cool that there's no origin story, but it jumps in as if you already had all this backstory.
Right.
They don't do any kind of intro to who Spider-Man is, how he got his powers, none of this. They jump right into it and like, bam, there's a lizard.
Yeah, it's true. I know that they definitely do flashbacks. In fact, actually, when we in the 2-parter that we watched, there is a little bit of a flashback to him getting his power. It's not the Uncle Ben portion.
And another weird thing, do they ever actually like call the character the Lizard? He's always Dr. Connors.
Yes, they do call him the Lizard.
Or
times.
They say Doc Connors, which sounds like dot commerce. Maybe just because I grew up in Silicon Valley, but I kept hearing dot commerce.
No, they definitely refer to him as the Lizard. So they go to the Daily Bugle because Peter Parker's a freelance photographer. And J. Jonah Jameson wants pictures of the Lizard, and so he kind of challenges Eddie Brock and Peter Parker. Whoever gets me a photo will get $1,000 bonus, and he calls him the Lizard. And throughout the series or this episode, they call him the Lizard. Spider-Man figures out that he's Doc Connors pretty early, and then there's even like this whole thing.
Dot commerce, like
Dot
eBay?
Commerce. Yep. There's even a point towards the end where he just, like, the whole episode, he decides that he doesn't want Eddie Brock to know who the Lizard actually is. So he, like, webs up Eddie Brock at one point, and then at the end, he kind of cures the Lizard, and Eddie Brock's like, I know who it is, it's Doc Connors, and he brings J. Jonah Jameson, who's an editor, like, he owns the newspaper, he's the editor. He brings this guy to this professor, Doc Connors' house, and he's, like, human, and this is the beginning of Eddie Brock hating Spider-Man because Spider-Man defeats the Lizard before Eddie Brock can prove that the Lizard is Doc Connors, and it's this whole thing. And like, this show is serialized just like the X-Men was, and we just didn't obviously see too much of that.
Was it just me, or was Doc Connors? Yeah, I'd really prefer to call him Dr. Connors.
Call him Kurt Connors, though.
Kurt Connors. Kurt. I can't take that name seriously.
Well, it's Curtis, but he goes by Kurt.
Neither of those are good options.
Call him Stacey.
No. So Liz, is his motivation in every storyline that he wants to convert everyone to like this lizard race? Is this some kind of like Illuminati thing?
No. Well, the Illuminati is a thing in the Marvel universe.
Oh.
Does
it include lizard people?
No, so the Illuminati's Professor Xavier, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange.
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt.
Bull.
No.
Bolt.
No.
Bull. Doom?
No.
Doom.
Ugh. Man, you made me completely lose my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Dick.
Oh, Curtis Connors, Cece, aka the Liz, aka Liz. His motivation is just to grow his arm back. So he was a vet, lost his arm, and that's his motivation. Now the Lizard.
He grows his arm,
and then turns into a lizard.
Becomes a lizard and is drunk with power.
Yeah, so that's the thing that's interesting. So the Lizard varies wildly throughout the comic because there's times where he's just very reptilian, very feral, doesn't really talk. There are times where he is super intelligent, can talk, but he's a completely different personality and wants to make like a reptile society. It varies. Obviously, that character, I think the Lizard was...
And his wife is not down with any of this.
She knows who he is, and she's, she doesn't like that he's the Lizard. I think the Lizard showed up in... I think it was issue 3 of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. So he was early on. So the Lizard's been around for like almost 60 years at this point.
So did Amazing Spider-Man happen after the show started?
No. So Spider-Man debuted in Amazing Fantasy 15 in 1962, I believe.
Who was in Amazing Fantasy?
So a lot of comic book characters didn't get their first issue as their own comic book.
Of course not.
No
one did.
So Amazing Fantasy was just a bunch of different stories.
Got it.
And then Spider-Man was in Amazing Fantasy 15, and then he got his own show, or his own series, and that was Amazing Spider-Man.
Got it.
But yeah, this episode, I mean, it's a kid's show. It goes it goes pretty quick. There were some puns. There's a point
cram
where
in a lot.
They do.
They cram in a little bit of romance there at a really inappropriate time.
Not in this episode. That's the other two that we watched.
No, that's the first episode because they're in that room and the lizard comes charging through and she's like, "Oh my god, what was that?" So he's explaining and then they're like flirting in the middle of this crazy scenario. Like they both just had the bejesus scared out of them.
Oh, that's Deb. He doesn't like her.
A giant humanoid lizard.
They weren't flirting.
They were flirting.
No, he specifically says this is like my annoying sister that I don't like.
Someone was flirting. The
blonde.
blonde.
I know who you're talking about. That's Deb.
I thought the blonde was who he dates before.
No, that's
MJ.
a different blonde.
I'm so confused.
So that's the thing that's funny. Gwen Stacy doesn't show up in this.
Couldn't they have made someone a brunette?
So you're getting the other episodes mixed with this one. Let's just
this
talk about the lizard.
No, this is in my notes for the first episode.
That's Deb. Deb. She is not a love interest. She's not. She's not a love interest.
That was an awfully flirtatious interaction.
No, he keeps saying that
he
she's
is
annoying.
Just playing the field.
No, he's not. He specifically says she's annoying to him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
if you don't think that's flirting, yet I specifically remember you incessantly teasing me and then being like, I love you, right?
No, but that's different.
You were flirting. That is flirting.
Will you stop? Because when he shows up at the school and he sees her, he's like, oh, no, not her. He's not into her. Anyway.
In this episode, though.
He's not into her. But there's a pun. There was a great pun that you loved.
What was the pun?
So when these people start talking, the people he rescues start talking about the lizard man in the sewer, he's like, that's just an urban myth. And then he hears a noise. He's like, oh, it looks like I was myth taken.
Oh no! God, it's terrible.
Right.
He has so many bad puns.
Yeah, he does.
And I feel like there were plenty of opportunities for good jokes. They could have let them land. But he just never stops talking.
So Spider-Man's not actually supposed to make good jokes.
Here's the thing. Spider-Man is literally like swimming through poop water. And he's got this entire inner monologue going the entire time. There's not like a second of dead space in this entire episode. If someone else isn't talking, then he is talking or we are hearing his inner monologue.
So the thing that's weird, because he wears a mask, it's hard to tell if he's actually talking or if it's just like
he was
inner monologue.
Swimming through poop water, so I'm assuming it was inner monologue. But then he's got his inner monologue like when he sees Aunt May's bills.
Or when he's swinging. Well, like that you can tell. But when he's wearing the mask swinging around, you don't know if he's talking or if we're hearing his thoughts.
Also, like, how are they swimming through all that sewer water and then they just jump out and start talking like, dude, no. You'd be gagging, maybe vomiting. Why do people always swim through sewers like it's no big deal?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
So the thing that I kind of like about it, you mentioned his like inner dialogue or inner monologue, is so the thing that another reason why I always liked Spider-Man is he is a very caring character. He's very self-conscious, and he has this huge like moral compass where he wants to do the right thing even if it's not the best thing for him. So like this whole thing with Kirk Connors, that's his professor. He actually in this he mentions like he helped create that laser that brought the arm back, which ultimately made him the lizard. And so he's got this like thing. He's like, well, I have this responsibility to stop him from hurting people, but I also have this responsibility to save his reputation because I'm partially to blame for this, and he's got a kid and a family, and this is a misunderstanding. He's not an evil man. He just had an accident, and I'm responsible for that. So he kind of has this like, he puts the weight of the world on him, where realistically this would have happened with or without him eventually, but he burdens the responsibility for this villain, even though it's really not his fault.
Right.
I did appreciate Kirk Connor's wife had she had a presence, like when he abducts her and he explains his master race of lizards, and he's like, I need you to work the gun because my hands don't work the gun.
Yeah, she really is like an active character, whereas like in the films, the live action films, she totally just fades
she's
into
not
the
in
background.
any of them.
Yeah, she is.
Kirk Connor's wife is not in any of them.
Yeah, she is. There's a scene in their house.
Not
he's like experimenting on stuff. He's like in their home. Yeah, he's in their home.
No.
Yeah.
No.
90% sure.
I can tell you with 100% certainty.
I think it's because she fades into the background.
No. So in the Tobey Maguire ones, you only see Kirk Connors at school. And then in Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, there is a point where
I think that's the one.
he goes to the house, but there's no wife there. And then you see him in the lab. That he doesn't have a wife in the movies that we see.
I thought she was there. She just doesn't talk.
She's not there.
Okay, whatever.
You might be thinking of Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. He does have a wife in that one, but not the lizard.
Alfred Molina?
Yeah.
God, that was so silly.
Anyway,
Ugh.
but what I liked about it is that when he's saying like, I'm the master race and we're going to be able to save everything. I want to create this lizard race where we're going to be able to heal faster. There's going to be no disease and all this stuff, which part of it sounds pretty good. But she's like, you can't be the master race if you need my help to even work your technology kind of thing, right? Like, I thought that was great.
Yeah. She draws the hard line at the lizard race.
Right. And so, like, even though the episode was corny, I did like the whole, like, moral quandary that Spider-Man had and Peter Parker had. I did like that the woman, his wife, Martha, stood up. I think it's Martha.
You go, Martha. It's like, we'll spend Christmas and Thanksgiving at your parents' house, but no lizard race.
Right.
You have to stand up for yourself in your marriage sometimes.
And I appreciated that they kind of start tying in like the little like Brock, Spider-Man, Peter Parker kind of like animosity, because at the end he says something along the lines like, if Kurt Connors isn't the lizard, I'll eat this morning's newspaper. And then he shows up, and of course he's human. And James Jameson was like, how do you want that?
Jameson.
Jameson. Jobin.
Jenna Jameson.
It's not Jenna Jameson.
Jobin.
That's from what, I Love You, Man?
Yes. I think we should move on to the next episode.
Yeah. So the next one is
Spoderman. I just saw Mike's notes in his phone, and literally the header said Spoderman.
That's like a YouTube thing.
I don't even know what that was. So like my niece drew this thing. I don't know. It was like very obviously a vagina and an anus.
Whoa. I remember that. Yeah.
I sent just a picture of it to my friends, and my friend Sarah was like, it's a spoder. And I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought she was being funny.
I mean, Sarah is funny.
Spoderman.
So the next part was a two-parter called The Insidious Six. The overarching plot overall was the Kingpin has the rest of the mob bosses are trying to like overthrow him. So he's like, I've got a plan. I'm going to get all these villains. They're going to finally defeat Spider-Man once for all. So he creates the Sinister Six to defeat Spider-Man. For some reason, Spider-Man's losing his powers. He goes to Kurt Connors. He's still around. And Kurt Connors is like, oh, you are a mutant. Like, you're not like a mutant. Like, you weren't born with your powers. You got them from an accident, right? And he goes, yep. He goes, oh, your powers are still mutating. Like, your DNA is still changing. That's probably what's going on.
Did Kurt Connors have the forked tongue?
As the lizard, yeah. As a human, no. He also has this like subplot where you mentioned playing the field. This is the one where he plays the field. So it's weird. He's daydreaming at the beginning of the movie. He's telling like a stupid joke. I don't remember what it was. He's just like having a monologue, or he's talking to the is it a monologue? I don't know.
It's an internal monologue.
Well, no, because he was actually talking. Because he's talking to the gargoyle on the side of a building.
Okay, I think talking to a gargoyle still counts as an internal monologue.
But he says, "You're rock solid, and you laugh at all my jokes.
Oh, no.
But I need to hang out with something prettier." And then he has like a little daydream about Felicia Harding, and then he has a daydream about Mary Jane, and then he falls off the building.
He's an idiot in this episode.
Right.
So, okay, one thing I really don't like about this series is that Spider-Man's chest is like 5 heads wide. He's like ripped. He's like a full-grown man.
Well, he is a man in this. Like, he's not in high school. He's in like.
I know, but he doesn't.
He's getting this like PhD.
Okay, think about you. Okay, maybe.
No, don't think about me.
Think about most full-grown men compared to their 20-year-old selves. There's a big difference.
But they're not mutants. He's a mutant.
He's ripped.
Not a mutant like an X-Men. He's a superhero.
He's ripped AF. And
he should be.
He looks like a 40-year-old man.
So the thing is, I do agree that they make his face look.
And
they
also
older.
make him way too buff for him to still be like, "Oh, I'm so awkward. The women don't like me."
Okay,
like come on.
I take umbrage with this because we've had this conversation
Spider-Man
before.
in high school,
right?
And he's ripped.
Okay,
Like,
I take I take umbrage
Tom
with
Holland,
this.
okay, swinging into Poon.
That's my joke from Remake Rewind. Listen to our Spider-Man episode.
Swinging into Poon. There's no way that he could still be considered like nerdy and awkward.
Especially at that school in Spider-Man Homecoming.
For real.
But anyway, no. So
I have a problem with that.
Okay, well, I have a problem with this because I've explained this to you before.
I don't care.
So the reason...
I still disagree.
So, Spider-Man was never... So the thing is, most people have this image of Spider-Man being this like super scrawny, kind of this lithe superhero. And that wasn't really how he was portrayed until the early 2000s when Ultimate Spider-Man came around.
I liked that better.
So the thing is, he was
it made him more relatable. That's part of what we like about Spider-Man is that he's a teen. He's relatable.
Right. So the thing is, I get that. So the thing is, he was like average, but the reason that people picked on him was you had Flash Thompson, who's the most popular guy, the good-looking guy, picking on him, and people pick on people that the popular people are picking on because they don't want to be picked.
Flash
Thompson
sounds like a pervert.
His name is actually Eugene, and he goes by Flash. So he was picked on because he was super nerdy. He was very socially awkward. Like, his idea of a good time was going to this like radioactive exhibit, and he invites all these people, and everyone's like, "No, we're gonna go to like the burger joint and get burgers." Like, he doesn't know how to interact with people his age because he's so like nerdy and everything. So he was picked on. So in the comic books, once he gets his spider powers, he still has to act kind of like bumbling a little bit so people don't realize he's Spider-Man. But even so, he gets stronger and faster, and he gets a little bit more confident, and girls do start dating him. So in the early runs, he dates, while he's still in high school, he dates Betty Brant, who's like a few years older than him. Who's works at the Bugle as a secretary. And then he dates, in college, he dates Gwen Stacy. He dates, who else does he date? He dates a girl in high school.
Who's the blonde Liz in Allen. This episode?
That's Felicia Hardy.
So this is Felicia. Like, this is kind of like a sexually charged episode. So he's interacting with Felicia, and
she's hot. That's a black cat.
She invites him somewhere. Where does she invite
So
him?
her mom is like opening up a museum with like some exhibits, and she wants him to go because he can explain.
Right. So she's real casual about it, and he's like,
well, she likes him.
She invites him, and he's like a date, and she's like, sure, fine, whatever. What do you? And then he like gets all aggressive. He's like, you didn't answer the question. Is this a date? Like, he gets all aggressive about it.
This show is serialized, and it there are a lot of will they won't they moments with him and her. And she's like rich and like upper class, everything like that, and he's obviously not. So she tries to act like she's better than him, but she actually does really like him. Same thing, and then Mary Jane shows up at the very end, and he's kind of got a thing with her going on too.
Yeah, it's like super charged. It's also a little bit homoerotic.
What?
So, there's this one point where Doc Ock and the Scorpion, they like confront each other in the dark,
right?
In trench coats.
Yeah.
And they open up their trench coats like flashers, and simultaneously their mechanical tentacles like go at each other.
Well, they're gonna fight.
What is that?
They can't use their appendages when they're in clothing.
Why the trench coats, guys?
To hide their appendages.
I gotta be inconspicuous. I'm gonna wear a full-on fedora, a trench coat, and shades at night.
Okay, so
and then open it up suggestively in the street.
It is a cliche. The Ninja Turtles would hide trench coats. The Thing wore a trench coat.
Okay, but at no point did the animators say to themselves, "This is a kids' show. We're gonna show these."
It's because only someone like you would think
at
that
night
this
open up their trench coat and these like mechanical things. Like,
why would anybody think that's weird? The kids all know that they have a tail and 4 arms.
We need to teach children that seeing a trench coat is not normal.
Honey,
if a man opens his trench coat, do not look. Don't look. Any appendage that comes out of it is not going to be cool and mechanical.
God.
I'm just looking out for the little ones. The wee ones.
These 2 episodes did have Peter Parker.
The wee ones don't see any wee.
Being a little bit more quippy and everything, and because he doesn't have his power, so there's a point where he has to go confront the City of Six, because they leave a note at his house saying that they kidnapped Aunt May, because they don't know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but they know he takes the pictures, so they think that he can get Spider-Man. So he shows up, but he happens to lose the fight because he doesn't have his powers. So they're like, "Oh, you just put on a costume," and so he like he has to do some kind of like mental gymnastics to try to get them to a point where he can escape.
Okay,
as
why
Peter
is
Parker.
anyone being rude about his costume when Mysterio shows up in this episode?
Mysterio's yoked, bro.
Mysterio's costume is ridiculous.
It's just a green bodysuit with a helmet.
The helmet. That helmet is like something from the Jetsons.
He's the master of illusions and special effects.
It's way over
Mysterio's
the top.
cool.
It's
I don't
silly.
know how they're going to do Mysterio in a movie, though.
So
Jake
weird.
Gyllenhaal's going to be Mysterio.
That's odd.
Why? Actually, I think it's great.
I don't like it.
Why? Yeah, he's actually great casting for it.
I kind of feel, though, at this
You don't know
point-
anything about the character. How can you say you don't like it?
It's just weird. I just don't like Mysterio. Like that
You
helmet.
don't know anything about
The
him.
helmet is weird. Is he going deep sea diving? Why is there a cape
So
and
the
a helmet?
because he's the master of illusions. He has to have all the places for his tricks.
What? Does he keep his tricks in his helmet?
He's got like speakers. He's got like the little. So the whole point is he's supposed to be like a mystic, and so his helmet's full of like fog and everything, so you can't see his face. It's a whole motif. Okay,
That's so weird. I kind of did dig the Rhino though. He was gross looking, but kind of great.
the Rhino's stupid, but he's strong. He can he can stand a couple punches from the Hulk. He's powerful. He's okay.
Yeah.
The Rhino is one of those characters that Spider-Man always has to outsmart because he's not nearly as strong as the Rhino, so he has to get the Rhino to defeat himself. And he does that. So as Peter Parker, he's able to defeat the Sinister Six, or Insidious Six. It's so hard not to say Sinister Six. He tricks the Rhino into attacking some of the Sinister Six, and then they all start fighting, and they basically defeat themselves. And he also uses some of Mysterio's technology to trick everyone.
How did you just pull my hair right now?
Because I wanted to. No, I didn't. I didn't pull your hair.
You just pulled my hair.
How?
I don't know.
I'm just sitting here.
I was just sitting here too.
You're the one who
Suddenly
moved.
you're pulling my freaking hair.
My
You
bad.
always find a way. Anyway, this episode, or these two episodes, had the Kingpin.
Yep. And Silvermane and Hammerhead and Alistair Smythe.
Kingpin might be like one of my favorite characters now, but he's one of my favorite characters because of the Daredevil series.
Right. Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio.
He's so
good.
He outshines absolutely everyone in that series.
I agree.
He outshines everyone in all of those series.
I agree.
That Netflix did. He is so freaking good. And then you see this Kingpin roll in, and he is fat AF.
He's not fat.
He
He's
is fat.
Built.
He is fat.
He's not fat. He's like a
Okay.
sumo wrestler.
Vincent D'Onofrio is built in that show. This Kingpin is rotund.
He's not fat.
He's like Jabba the Hutt in a suit.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. He is fat. We should do a poll.
He's not fat.
Go check out our Instagram.
His
we do a poll
strength
on
level
Instagram?
is supposedly at peak human potential.
Look at that fat.
He's not fat.
He is way too
He's not
big to
fat.
move quickly.
He's not fat.
Unless he's spending all day, every day working out like a sumo
He's
wrestler.
working out all the goddamn
He is
time.
not moving fast. That is not muscle. That is fat. Look at that face.
He's got a little bit of fat around the muscle. He's got to consume a lot of calories to maintain that physique. No, but he's not fat. He's not fat. He's big,
He's fat.
but he's pure muscle.
We should do a poll.
I don't need to. I have.
Go
So,
to our Instagram.
first-
We're gonna have a poll.
I have
Is-
the Marvel Encyclopedia.
Is
Encyclopedia.
Kingpin in Spider-Man the animated series specifically? I'm not talking about Kingpin as a whole. I don't need.
He's designed exactly like the comic book.
I don't need your tallies. I just want people to answer the question.
The answer, I don't
Answer
need
the
to.
poll. What are you afraid of, Michael?
I don't care
You
what
afraid you're
people
gonna
think.
lose? Is the Kingpin in this series fat?
No, he's
or muscular?
He's huge.
No,
You're wrong, and I don't care because I've got the knowledge.
I don't care.
I've got the knowledge.
This is the equivalent of every friend you ever had in middle school whose mother called him husky when we all knew he was just fat.
Can go toe to toe with superheroes. He's super strong.
That doesn't matter.
He's strong AF.
Yeah,
You're
and he's
wrong.
fat AF
He's
too.
not.
He is fat.
Anyway,
I just think the Kingpin is less intimidating when he's that round. He's like Jabba the Hutt. It makes him look helpless. And he's sitting the entire time.
No, he's not.
He's always sitting.
No, he isn't.
Sitting in that
He's actually a point where
big, wide chair.
He's in that chair, and they trick him to getting in a chair that like puts all these like restraints around it, and he snaps out of the restraints.
That's fine. He can still be strong, but he's fat. He's not muscular. He's fat.
He's super yoked.
This was never the discussion that we had when we were watching this. The discussion was
the exact discussion.
Fat versus muscular. Not fat versus strong. You can be strong and fat. It is fat or muscular.
He is super muscular.
He's got a huge belly.
No. He's a massive person.
Anyway, we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah, we do. He had a lifelong pursuit of bodybuilding.
So, why'd they draw him with a giant belly in this?
Because he needs the calories.
I don't like the way they drew him in this. Why is he so rotund?
He looks exactly like he does in the comic books.
No, he doesn't.
That's the exact same outfit.
That's the comic book. That is not the exact same outfit.
It's the
He's
same.
wearing a double-breasted suit with a big old belly in this series. He's not wearing a pullover sweater vest with a white blazer.
Anyway,
it's different. It's different. I don't like the way they drew him in this.
It's fine.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't approve.
It's fine. Anyway, anything else you want to talk about the Spider-Man series besides Kingpin?
I didn't like it.
I'm torn because I know there are episodes that are better.
I wanted to like it, but
I think we might have bumped it up too much because of X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that, but I think Spider-Man just has way too much wisecracking, and he never stops, and the jokes
That's the point of the character.
Yeah, but the jokes didn't land.
He's not supposed to actually be funny. He's supposed to be annoying. It's a
well,
self-defense mechanism.
Mission accomplished.
So
I was just annoyed by Spider-Man. Like, everything else about the series was way more interesting than he was.
I agree. I think the problem that I had with it is I had a bunch of these episodes on DVD because there were so many like multi-part episodes that they could basically make like little mini movies out of. I had a couple volumes of this on DVD that I still was watching when I was in like high school, and I know they get better. So like I know there's a whole Secret Wars thing where they like team up with the X-Men to fight all the different villains, and then there's a whole like Clone Saga one, and then there's a point where like Mary Jane dies in this at one point. I know.
What?
Yeah, and then he's pretty sure she dies, and then he finds her again, and it turns out she was like a clone, made out of water, which is crazy.
What?
Yeah, so she had like they used like Hydro Man to make another version of her or something like that. And the Venom story in this is considered is basically the now de facto origin story for Venom.
Right.
So there are things that I know this show did that people still to this day love, and I feel like maybe we just picked the wrong episodes.
Probably. I mean, overall, I do like the writing. I think I'm just so annoyed by Spider-Man's incessant babbling that it kind of ruins it for me. But I mean, that's kind of just me having a problem with the Spider-Man character as a whole, if that's what I don't like.
Right, I guess so. But the thing is, you liked the Andrew Garfield movies, and
I love
and you
Andrew
love
Garfield.
Tom Holland.
I love Tom Holland. I just really don't like Tobey Maguire.
Right, and I can get that.
I liked the universe of Andrew Garfield, and I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
I do think that Tom Holland is the best live action version. Although, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna throw this on Remake Rewind's feed or if I'm gonna throw it in this. But I do want to do like a mini review of Into the Spider-Verse.
Ooh.
That's a great movie. I got to go to this advanced screening put on by Sony, and it was great. I got some swag, but it was incredible. It was so much more than I thought it was going to be. I'm probably going to do a little mini review and throw it up somewhere.
That's good.
So look for it.
But, I think part of this is also we're looking at this through the lens of all that has happened to Spider-Man between the show and now. And there's a lot. There's a lot. And there have been some bad moments. There have been some really freaking great moments. And so I think it's very difficult to objectively look at this.
I agree.
As what it was. And as a kid's show, it was great. It was well done. The writing is fantastic.
Right.
The animation is pretty good.
And
there were a couple of scenes where for his swinging through the city, they did some like weird experimental CG. Which is, now it looks terrible. But at the time, we were just kind of barely dipping our toes into CG.
There was a point where the whole show was going to be CG, and then they realized it'd be too expensive.
So expensive. But I'm glad it was animated the way it was. I think overall, it's a good show. We picked the wrong episodes, but I was impressed with the writing, and I did really
They don't dumb it down for the kids at all.
I like that they don't dumb it down. I like that the female characters have voices, which wasn't something that happened a lot in male superhero cartoons.
Absolutely. And even in the science, though, like, they talk about genetics, and they don't...
Yeah,
it's not necessarily the most accurate stuff, but they use all this jargon, and they don't dumb it down.
And I like that they use the terminology, like, they bring out eugenics, and they really oversimplify it, but the basics of it are correct.
For you said you didn't watch this as a kid, so you can't say it ruined your childhood.
No, but I don't think that I would be able to sit down and watch this. Like, I am all about sitting down and watching X-Men a little bit more.
Oh, update. We didn't mention that we actually met Eric and Julia.
We did. That was so much fun.
So they were in Burbank doing a book signing for the previously on X-Men, the book it's a rad book. Like, check it out.
Did either of them work on this show?
No. So this show was actually a different production company.
Got it.
I'm surprised that they actually crossed over, though, because I looked it up just to be sure. The X-Men voice actors my brain is not working. Reprised their roles for this, even though it was actually a different production company.
Was it after that show, or was it at the same time?
Yeah, they did run concurrently a little bit. So X-Men was 92 to like 97, and this was 94 to 98.
Nice.
So there was some overlap, but it was technically a different production company. So this actually was like Marvel and Avi Arad actually did this, who ended up going over to Sony. Marvel actually had a production where the other one was like Saban and Fox directly.
Got it. So did this ruin your childhood?
I'm torn because I did not enjoy these episodes, but I kind of want to go and watch at least the Black Suit kind of saga, the symbiote saga, and see how that is.
There was nothing to ruin for me. I don't think I would sit down and watch them again. I was expecting it to be a little bit more enjoyable.
Right. I'm torn because it's like, I guess I have to say ruin just because I didn't love 3 episodes, but I kind of want to watch more, and I'm hoping, but I also don't want to.
Like, for you, that Spider-Man is setting the bar pretty high.
Yeah, it is. I'm torn because if I watch more and they're not good, then I'm going to like just be devastated.
Maybe just put this one to bed, Michael.
Maybe. So, Katrina, what are we going to cover next week or next episode? In the spirit of the holidays, we are covering the Jonathan Taylor Thomas classic, I'll Be Home for Christmas. Oh. JTT, so dreamy. My cousin was obsessed with him. I think everyone was obsessed with him. He did a lot of stuff. I'm surprised we haven't done anything that he's been in yet. No, we haven't done anything. We're not touching The Lion King, that's for sure. No. We're not doing the Disney classics. There are a couple things we can do, like Tom and Huck. I love Tom and Huck. He did a movie with Chevy Chase. I can't remember what that was called. Chevy Man Chase. Of the House, I think. Something like that. Anyway, we're going to do I'll Be Home for Christmas. Katrina, where can our listeners find you? I'm all over the internet at Katrinaosity. Check out my YouTube channel. Check out our YouTube channel as well. Links below for all of this stuff. For everything that's MDXpods related, go to MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at MDXpods. Please listen to our other podcast, Remake Rewind. We've got a special guest who's going to be on our next episode, Nick Gambino from Get to the Podcast. He's a great guy. He's kind of annoying. He's loud. But he's going to be great for the podcast. Way to sell it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks.